Good afternoon, beloved community. I am Melissa Miller with The Chosen Heroes. We're in for a treat today. We have special guest Jamie Rice, who is going to discuss the Targeted Individual Counterterrorism Action Plan that she has developed. We're going to have a great discussion. So before that, let's go ahead and get on into the week in review for targeted justice. All right. So Sarah Westall and Richard Lighthouse discussed the discovery of parallel universes and the drone scene around the states belonging to us, but the orbs do not. So refer to Targeted Justice Substack article dated on 1/23 for a link to the video. Pete Hegseth was confirmed as the Secretary of Defense. His X channel is listed on the screen. Please write a letter and address it to Honorable Pete Hegseth along with his title, and the address is listed. A template for the letter can be found on Targeted Justice Substack on the post dated today, 1/26. Help us track down the FBI agents in your city and state to send communications. We will need them for upcoming criminal trials and prosecutions. According to the Office of the Inspector General, all non-investigated subjects were selected by the FBI field offices. That means that all targeted individuals in the United States were placed on the TSDB, which is the Terrorist Screening Database, by a local field FBI office using the standard nomination form. You can refer to the article dated on 1/23 for instructions on how to locate those field agents in your city and state, along with a sample communication. Richard Lighthouse and Anna Toledo reviewed the new executive orders that were announced this week and discussed how they may help targeted individuals. A link to the video can be found on a Substack article dated 1/22. Project Freedom. Targeted Justice sent the House Committee on Intelligence a proposal for enactment of legislation to end the targeting program. There is a link on the screen that you can go to gain more information. Every TI should send a letter to the congressman and demand an end to the weaponized TI program. Refer to the 1/22 article on Substack. You can copy and paste that information and put it on your social media. Keep sharing the information. And also, Targeted Justice is still looking for international podcasters, India, UK, Canada, Australia. If you're interested, send Targeted Justice an email at tjustice2@proton.me. Put podcast as the subject line. Same thing for volunteer. If you feel like you have some skills, want to do some research, you have graphic artists, translation, anything that you could be beneficial to the community, please reach out to Targeted Justice, and in the subject line, just state volunteer. All right, so I want to spend a few minutes with you before we get to our special guest, and I feel very guided to share this information. I feel like God, universe put this on my heart for you. Okay. As always, we're going to start out. We're just going to ask God to surround us and protect our body and our energy field, and to surround our minds and our hearts with His love and protection. Okay. I was listening to music, which is one of the things that I just really enjoy to do. It really puts me at a disconnect from the day-to-day of being a targeted individual. And it kind of just speaks to me at a soul level. Music is very therapeutic to me. So I was listening to a song, and it's one of my favorite songs, but it really just stood out. And once I heard a particular lyric from that song, I just started to receive information from the universe and God. And that came to me yesterday, and that's what I'm going to share with you today. So what is this lyric, right? So it goes, I don't want to waste my life living on the outside. I want to live from the inside out. So those are very powerful words. Listen to it. I'll read it back to you again. I don't want to waste my life living on the outside. All that external noise. It's noise, right? I want to live from the inside out. That living from the inside is where there is gateways to your healing, your happiness, your wholeness, what we're put here on earth to do and reclaim God's promise, the universe supporting us with the laws of the universe. It's all within the inside of us. So God and the universe revealed to me that some cling to their suffering, their pain, and their trauma, and it's so hard to let go of. That old saying, the devil that you know. It may be that conflict and adversity is all some have known. It's what they're familiar with. And how they view themselves is not worthy of something more and the healing. The dark pits of our subconscious mind hold and contain all of these scripts and programs of unworthiness and trauma. And it's time now for our freedom and our liberation. I ask that you do this exercise with me. And first, let's just take some deep breaths. You're inhaling a golden light, and you're exhaling the trauma, the pain, and the suffering. I want you to visualize and close your eyes that there is a golden bright beam of light hovering over your head. Okay? That is God's light and love in the universe, and it's healing. It is over you. And I ask that you take a deep breath in and visualize that funnel of light, that golden healing light, is coming into your heart chakra center. Okay? And when that light hits and touches your heart, see your heart just opening up like a cocoon, like a butterfly. It's just ready. It's so ready, and it's so vulnerable to receive God's light and love. Now, I want you to continue visualizing that golden light is just running all throughout your body, and it's going all the way down to your toes. So you're completely covered and you're protected, and it's safe for you right now to receive the information that you will receive in this program today. And I want you to acknowledge to yourself and say, my heart is open to receive what I need for my healing and my restoration. Everything is working out for my highest good, and I am safe. Thank you, God. Thank you, universe. These external circumstances that overwhelm, distract, and defeat you, visualize with me, along with me, visualize yourself just handing that over to God and the universe. Now I want you to feel your body and your muscles, how they're relaxing from letting go of all of that heavy burden that you've been carrying along with you. You're still standing. You're standing in your faith. You're remaining hopeful. And the way you see yourself from today forward is going to be different. God and the universe asks that you see through the lens of love. See yourself as the beautiful creation that you are. Today you will start believing in yourself again. Today you're going to be liberated from the shackles of man-made, non-organic oppression. For you stand on universe and the God's promise to set yourself free. The universe and God will reveal the wickedness and the works of those with the malevolent minds and the hearts that do these injustices against us. I want you to close your eyes again, and I want you to visualize that trauma and pain that you've been holding on to, that is in the cells of your body, just releasing. Just watch it flee. Just watch it flee. You just see that trauma releasing out of your cellular structure. You no longer need to hang on to that trauma anymore. You are empowered and you're backed by God's light in the universe. And you're going to take action steps towards your healing daily. And I want you to look into the mirror after sometime today, and I want you to stare at the hero that is looking back at you, which is you. And I want you to know that every time that you pray with an open heart or you meditate, the enemy is destroyed and defeated. Ask the universe and God to transform all those ashes into beauty, and He will make it so. The universe will respond. When you pray with an open heart and you meditate, it's like you're calling in an order at a you're telling the waitress at a restaurant the order, but you consider that waitress not to be a waitress. You can know that it is God in the universe. They have taken your order and they're going to align it for you. Okay. The one thing that you have to keep doing, because when you pray, the enemy wants to come and attack you and oppress you and wants to come at you. But that you should take that as a wake-up call going, oh, this is working, because now I have the resistance and I'm going to keep on going and I'm going to keep on pushing, and I'm not going to let anything get me down. If I fall down, I get back up. So that was the message that was on my heart to share with you today. So now I want to introduce our special guest, Jamie Rice. Hi, Jamie. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi there. Thank you for the introduction. That was beautiful.
Yes,
I almost started to tear up.
I almost was too, because it was coming from source, right? And then just it amazes me when I get this information, and then when I read about it, it's just so beautiful, because it's coming from a pure, godly place of love and light, and it's truth, and it's just, and everybody can tap into that. Now, the powers of darkness and resistance don't want you to tap into that. They want you to stay tethered down into the low vibration of the 3D. But I also wanted to give the bio for you. So I got so wrapped up, I was like, I need to do the bio on you.
Okay.
So Jamie Rice is a visionary curriculum writer and teacher who has dedicated her life to understanding the intricacies of human experience. After successful yet unfulfilling career, Jamie embarked on a 20-year-long self-discovery journey propelled by spontaneous awakening in 2005 by practicing 4 transformational steps. She became a visual target to various forms of attack, interference, and manipulation from that day forward in 2005. The experience led Jamie to develop a profound understanding of the nature of reality, the human condition, and the interconnectedness of all things. Through intense study, practice, and experimentation, Jamie mastered a range of modalities that led to the creation of a new science called Poli-Si, where she integrated various disciplines such as psychologically neuroscience, quantum systems mechanics, multiple dimensional physics, philosophy, and spirituality to provide a comprehensive understanding of human consciousness and behavior. Jamie's work focuses on empowering individuals to develop mind, brain, heart, nervous system, free will coherence through inner child healing and shadow integration, through the release of polarity and mind control. She shares the wisdom and knowledge gained through intense training for understanding mind control, energetic seals, psychological implants, mental illness, disease, survival stress, codependency, addiction, and nervous system dysfunction. Jamie is here assisting other brave souls in the great unveiling of war crimes to shift global consciousness. And it was last year when I came across some of Jamie's writings, which were on Facebook, and I was just so much in awe, and it resonated so much because in my 13 years of being on my self-healing and discovery, post being targeted and attacked, I was led down the spiritual path and the psychological manipulation that was being done on me, and how all paths were leading to a raising consciousness, self-healing, self-love, and awareness. That is where it all began. And when I started reading the writings that she shares on Facebook, I was just in awe, because it was like my own heart and soul speaking back, and it was written on in these words, and it was resonating so deeply within me. So this was all before the Chosen Heroes even came about. And then I knew at some point I really wanted Jamie to appear, and I had to gain some of my footing with the podcast, because all of this was new to me. I knew nothing about podcasting, and I wasn't even a fan of public speaking or anything. But when you move in the direction of what you're supposed to do, then the universe backs you up, and then all of a sudden you get this momentum, and everything starts coming to fruition and being possible. And I continued on and on to read her works, and then I'm so blessed that she's here today. And I think this is really missing in the community, because a lot of it is focused on the how. The why is still a question mark, and it's just trying to get over the atrocities that human behavior can take technology and use it in such a malicious way against our bodies and such. So what we have to do, we cannot lose focus on our own self-healing journey and path. And that's why I'm just so privileged to have Jamie here today to start this introductory discussion, knowing that I have put in the chat for everybody. If you scroll up to the first two posts for Targeted Justice and Chosen Heroes, you'll see that there's a download link that is connected to the PDF, which I'll share on the screen here. The Targeted Individual Action Plan, the Poli-Si Counterterrorism Framework. So this is for, reading outside of the podcast, and just keep going back and forth to it. It's good information, and you might feel a little overwhelmed, but just go back to it, because healing itself, you have to understand, is multiple layers. We didn't get to where we stand today without going through many layers of, we got the conditioning that we come in and the programs and the scripts that we come into when we're born that are from both sides of the family, you know, our mother, our father, and then you have societal programming and scripts that you're carrying. So as you go along in your life, there's usually events that will start to awaken you into, okay, what do I resonate with and what I do not resonate with? So that really hit me when the targeting. I was already kind of getting there, but then when the targeting started, then it just like it was like it ripped the lid off. And then I just started to seek and question more in terms of higher consciousness and healing. So I will stop talking because I can continue to talk forever. So Jamie, do you want to give some backstory to
Sure.
the intro?
Okay, so in 2005, my inner world was in complete chaos as my outer world appeared to be what's deemed normal by society. I had accomplished more than I could have imagined in my wildest dreams by the age of 35, but was overworked and physically ill. I didn't have the mental or emotional capacity to address these conditions, which led to taking speed to facilitate my lifestyle for a period of 2 years. This didn't sit well with me, so I sought ways to remedy the situation with the intention to come clean with my family and enter rehab. Soon after I came to this understanding, a friend came to visit, and I humbled myself by opening up about my life. Her advice was to ask God for help, but this was off-putting for the simple fact that I denounced God at a very young age, having experienced a Catholic Church pedo scandal between a priest and one of the boys in my neighborhood. I came to the conclusion there could be no God if he allowed this to occur. Fast forward, why would I ask God for help when I didn't even believe in God? She left a book behind that referenced a set of teaching that piqued my interest, so I ordered the book. It was a 600-page book I read cover to cover 3 times over the course of 3 weeks. It helped me shift my overall perspective on life, guiding me to look into my past, giving me the ability to reconcile some of the guilt and shame that I had been carrying around. The book was framed around Jesus, and upon completion, I asked, if Jesus were here right now, how would he conduct himself within this framework? I said, that's easy. He would show up in the ever-present now moment as if there was no past or future from the perspective of an innocent child and unconditional love. He would not judge anyone or anything. Rather, he would seek clarity and understanding of all things and forgive everything that caused him resistance. I said to myself, I'm going to show up like Jesus and practice these steps on everyone and everything in my life. In short, the results were mind-blowing. Having extended empathy towards others and compassion towards myself led to a spontaneous awakening one evening, and the next morning I was drug-free. I dropped to my knees, threw my hands in the air, and I said, whatever you want me to do, God, I'm here to serve you. Within a 3-week time span, I was led to quit my well-paying job, leave my husband, give away all my worldly possessions, and come clean to my family, co-workers, and friends about my drug use and other negative behaviors. The effects were liberating, but the results were devastating. This is where I entered a 20-year training cycle. I began lucid dreaming, automatic writing, and receiving telepathic downloads, all of which was unbelievable at the time because I had very little understanding of what was occurring. My voice began talking to me very clearly about things I knew absolutely nothing about. I was told explicitly to study, apply, and document the effects of the 4 steps on my life while being given a vision of the future, to provide a testimony of knowledge and create a free course to bring healing modalities and concepts forward for humanity. In summary, I was trained how to release from the illusion of duality, psychologically, neurologically, biologically, electrically, chemically, energetically, and magnetically through healing inner child timelines, integrating shadow aspects, releasing implants and blocks, healing the mind virus, balancing brainwave states, regulating the nervous system, releasing trauma, decoding mind control, encoding mental models, and reprogramming the subconscious and the collective unconscious algorithms. I was given a healing blueprint to restore mind, brain, heart, nervous system, free will coherence through Poli-Si personal agency. I had to relearn how to think, sense, probe, store, process, discern, transmute, and transmit information through energy exchange formulas that reverse engineered my perceptions, intentions, motivations, and behaviors back to organic life systems. This was achieved by learning program language through non-dual awareness, sensing, categorizing, responding, choice program action, and input processing, output systems thinking, energy exchange processes. I was trained in non-attachment, non-judgment, and non-expectation as I learned how to heal the multidimensional layers of polarity, mind control, and trauma for multidimensional perception and hyperspatial awareness. This gave me access to memories through quarantine timelines that offer immunity from dark factions. I would like to show you how to break free from the illusion of separation through healing polarity.
And viewers, you can see just why I was just so drawn to hear Jamie speak. These are we have the tools within ourselves to heal and set ourselves free from that reactive state that this dark technology is using against us to keep us pigeonholed, right? And isolated and confined and restricted. That's the whole name of the game of this stuff, is to keep us from liberating ourselves and freeing ourselves from the wounding and the trauma tethers that this terrorist, technology is trying to. They need us to be reactive. They need us to be so broken down. So that, why? So the mind control, right? It's all about mind control. And Jamie, you want to chime in with that? I mean, I feel like I wasn't articulating that well, but
so nobody obviously wants to believe that they're under mind control, but the reality is duality is mind control and polarity is manipulation. And the reality is the mind, so we have a conscious mind and a subconscious mind, and our processors are stuck between past and future thinking patterns, and it's not even reality. So when you're mad, angry, or upset, your consciousness is in the past. Nervous, anxious, and afraid, your consciousness is in the future. So that's program. That's duality, and duality is a false framework. It's a false agenda, and that's how our consciousness is usurped, because our perceptions, intentions, motivations, and behaviors are aligned with duality. But we have the ability to reconcile that through understanding polarity, which is trauma, going through connecting with the self, through self-awareness, coming into the body, identifying where energy is located. So the system operates through energy. So why we weren't taught about energy is beyond me. Well, we know why we weren't taught, but so we have to reverse our perceptions and start seeing things a little bit more clearly. So we come into this system and we have this original divine blueprint, and then we've got this overlay on top of us, the mind control.
Yes.
And this system functions, it doesn't function. So organic systems exist here and inorganic systems. And when we come into this system, obviously we're aligned with the inorganic systems. So we have to back out of those systems and see things for what they are. And this process is really about healing. And, it's very upsetting to me to see so many people out there guiding people, and they're not guiding them through the healing process. And that's what this is about. It's about healing, because the reality is, once we start realizing the enormity and the interconnectedness of all things, it's overwhelming. So we have to develop algorithms. You heal and then you expand. You heal and you expand. People get stuck in the conceptual framework of everything, and then they get bogged down by shadow aspects. We have to go through those aspects, because there's many versions of us.
Many.
we have to identify those versions. And the only way we can do that is through self-awareness, becoming aware. And I would like to teach people how to build impeccable self-awareness, how to identify what energies they're communicating with, how to identify what is an internal energy versus external. Because the reality is, you cannot be attacked unless you resonate with an attack. So now I go through attacks because it's part of my training, but I could be sitting here and I have a shield around me. I can feel the energies coming off and literally ricocheting off of me. You can't be affected. It's two different systems. You know, when you connect with organic life systems, you have immunity. Immunity doesn't mean that you're going to have this amazing life and everything's going to be perfect and easy. That's the false light trap.
Right.
It's just a immunity from prosecution, you know, from um, you know, you're still going to go through the process. It's still going to be painful, but the outcomes are going to shift. And, you know, it's just two different systems. You know, we have to have a re-education process and learn how to process information properly, because we're seeing things through the eyes of the ego, and ego is not, you, you can't access the truth in polarity. In
Yeah.
polarity, everybody's perspective is valid. Does that mean that that's the whole truth? No. We have to be able to build an understanding of what is polarity, build empathy, compassion for ourselves. And that's why connecting to the inner critic and inner dialogue is so important in the beginning of this work, because unless you have self-awareness, you can't pinpoint what are these attacks. So I really want to talk about the difference between the victim and the warrior. You know,
Yeah.
these are two different timelines. The victim is in the organic life systems, connected to self, you know, self-image timelines. The warrior timelines, you know, we work on self-worth, not self-image. You know,
Yeah.
it's two totally different lifestyles.
Right.
You know, and we are here. I believe that the targeted community is essential in bringing forward war crimes to humanity and
Yeah.
exposing these crimes. I think this is an opportunity for everyone to learn and grow and expand outside these systems, because the system is attacking us. So
Yes.
we have to find that safe haven, and that safe haven is inside. We have the ability to create our own neural network and energy mapping system, a cryptographic mind, with a security system. But that's done through inner work and healing. Um, you know, you can't do this work without healing. I don't care how smart you think you are. Which brings me back to, I had very little intelligence prior to this healing experience. All of my intelligence comes from healing. Um, you know, we have this blueprint inside of us. This is not something that we're learning. This is something that we're remembering. You know, we're remembering our essence, our spirit essence. You know, we have a mind,
Mm-hmm.
um, a spirit, and a soul. You know, they're
Right.
three different systems. We have to integrate those systems. They function differently. We're also inside of a control system
Yeah.
that is, you know, we have to understand systems mechanics, because that's where we're going to break free from these systems, is understanding how it functions. And that's why this program is so helpful. It's not a belief system. It's we're offering processes to teach people how to think, how to relearn how to think and process and discern information accurately. Because in polarity, you cannot get to the truth. You cannot solve a problem in polarity. So we have very simple formulas. I have a 4-step process that we will work through every structure that we're going to go through. And, you know, again, it's a healing and expansion process. And we create algorithms through the 4 steps. And we have a lot of project-based learning procedures that we offer. I have a There's 2 other girls that I work with. We have a group called Collective Coherence that's bringing forward this material. And we have a foundations 2 modules that people can access to, start with the foundations, non-dual awareness. What is it? Why is it important?
And how are those accessible? Is that on your YouTube or?
You could go on YouTube, Quantum Reality Studies, look for Module 1 and Module 2 blueprints, and they're just voice recordings. I do have a couple videos on there, an energy mapping protocol, and a problem solving formula. Really what we're trying to do is just build the mindset to be able to work ourselves out of these traps. Polarity creates consciousness traps. They start as causal loops, cause and effect. That's the system we live in. In childhood, something, I think I told you the first time I experienced humiliation, my brother read my diary to all the kids in the neighborhood, and I had written, I'm supposed to kiss Andy Friday night. I hope I do it right. Well, Friday night came, he went in for the kiss, and he stopped and he started laughing and repeating my diary. Well, I was like in complete shock that happened, and I ran upstairs and I said, Mom, blah blah blah, read my diary. And she was just like, okay, didn't really make a big deal out of that. But that causal loop, the effect becomes the next cause. That created an open timelines. It opened a timeline for that vindictive female to come out, because after that I didn't say this at the time, but I was hurt, I was humiliated, embarrassed, and I unconsciously was going to pay him back. So I went to school, I broke up with him in front of everybody, I humiliated him, and then everyone turned on me because they didn't know the backstory.
Yes.
So that created. So it creates mountains and mountains over a lifetime. So we have to go back. I call them blockchains. A block is an event and a chain is a timeline. So we have to go back to the original timeline through inner child healing and shadow integration and pull out those experiences, reconcile them, and then move forward. So this is like a reverse engineering process.
Yes.
And, you connect the higher self through the processes. By the way, I didn't make up this process. This is how consciousness functions in these systems, in an energy map, in an energy system. So this is just something that I developed through my awareness of going through the processes so many times over 20 years.
Right.
This is
you began to see,
yes.
that things would come up, and then you would reconcile and sit with it, reconcile with it, and then, okay, then here comes the next one, right?
Well, it's a process, because essentially we have to decode the mind, and then we have to encode new programs, and then reprogram the subconscious mind. So we have to create new mental models, new frameworks, new ideas. So for example, a new mental model that I developed very early on when I started my journey was, there are no problems, there's only solutions. There's solutions that we're experiencing in a time delay. Problems and solutions are synonymous, and everything that is happening for my highest good and for the collective. So I have never looked at a negative situation as a problem. I've looked at it as an obstacle and an adversity challenge that is always attached to a lesson that gives me insight into myself.
Right.
And gives
That
me the
is so
ability.
well put. Because these trials and fires that we come in with, of course, targeting experiences, it is really just, it is a
It's
complex.
overwhelming.
Yeah,
So,
it's overwhelming, and it's very complex. There's so many layers to it. I mean, at the levels of attack. But like you said, if you shift the perception, okay, yes, there is something being done against me and my free will, it was non-consensual. But how you then there becomes a path, like a fork in the road, of how you're going to respond with it. And are you going to go to the left and get sucked down the rabbit hole of despair, destruction, acting out in ways that are harmful to yourself or others, and getting yourself mislabeled, misdiagnosed, or and all of these things, which is easy to do because we're trying to process it and it's overwhelming. And then in the way that they built this system is to make it appear to discredit you and make you seem like you're unstable when you're not. You're just seeking answers and you're seeking truth. But then you have that other right side. At some point, you want to shift over to the right and you want to see what it is teaching you and revealing about you and yourself and your resilience and your strength, and as you're navigating through the day-to-day of it. So this is how you can actually leverage it. I know I say this a lot. You can leverage this targeting experience as a catalyst for your own inner healing and for reconciling your heart and all that has occurred and what you were born into and what you went through as a child, because they're latching on to your trauma triggers.
Yeah, and everything's recorded. So
Yeah,
we're battling programs. We're battling programs,
a program.
timelines, shadow aspects, duality, polarity, and mind control. We are not battling other people. We're not battling anything but programs. And that's hard to wrap your head around until you start working the processes.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to minimize these attacks because they are debilitating.
Yes.
I know for me, I've been the past couple of years I worked through the nervous system responses, fight, flight, fawn, freeze. I was stuck in freeze for 2 years. I could not move. My mind was thinking like, okay, get up, go for a walk, go do this, but I couldn't move. So I had to go in and do more trauma healing, which, put me in alignment. But we work with the mind in the beginning. So I know for 2 years, I worked with recoding my mind. I couldn't at a certain point even sit by myself because the invasive voices and the things that were being said in my head, I had to just keep affirmations on, literally, sometimes for 8 hours. I also trained myself to work with the different brainwave states, to shift my brainwaves, but not to minimize those attacks. I mean, but you can. We've got lots and lots of tools for that.
Yes, and the affirmations, they do help. I mean, you have, but you can't just do it one day and think that something.
No, it has to be
a routine.
Repetitive. You have to become
repetitive.
hyper focused, and this has
Hyper-focused.
to be. You need a commitment. It's not something that you just do half-ass. It has to be full. It's all or nothing type thing, and you can't put the glasses on and take the glasses off.
Mm-hmm.
It's
and that
just
repetition too. The attacks are trying to distract you so you don't do your routine.
Yeah.
I've come into that. It doesn't mean that you have to spend an hour, but if you come with that open heart and you do it what you can, and when you feel like you can't, that's the resistance coming, because they don't want you to win, right? These mind control programs don't want you to win. And so they come in to distract you, to get you off guard, to make you lose your focus, and anything that you're doing to help heal you. Because, like Jamie said, you have this divine blueprint that has a layer over it, which is what all of this mind control garbage is, right? So your higher self, your higher soul, not your ego self, right? But your higher soul is like trying to chip away at that layer, right? So for it to shine through. And then, because that is your divine essence, and your that they're trying to prevent. I mean, to the point where, trying to disable, and, because the divine blueprint within our DNA has been genetically modified so that we cannot tap into that spiritual realm and that existence so easily too. There's just so much working against us, but
Yeah, that's what, so the
yeah.
self-awareness is imperative, because we have to build the attention span, because you will see that there's always something vying for your attention. That's the program. It sends us, the mind craves going offline. So it's always looking for a distraction. So you literally have to build the attention span. And that's what we're doing. We're actually building a spine, and to be able to focus, because you'll see when you get into some of the healing methods, something doesn't want you to heal.
No.
You'll sit down to do something, and the thought, you'll be like, what was I doing? I have no idea what I was even working
just
with.
go blank. And I was like, not today. I'm going to get back on track, so.
That's why we work with the nervous system, because that can be done on a day-to-day basis, really connecting and really seeing, what are my triggers? What relationships, doing a mental housekeeping. Where is my energy going? What people are stealing my energy? What situations are robbing my energy? What am I consenting to?
Right.
And once you go through and do this work, you start to see that you really have to set boundaries for yourself first.
I was just about to say that about the boundaries, because, when you don't have boundaries, then you are consenting for that negative toxic you're allowing it to be in your life and your energy field. So what, like you said, you've got to do the housekeeping. What are you allowing and permitting? Where do you need to strengthen your boundaries? What is taking your energy that is not for your good? It's not for your health. If it's not for your health and your healing and your well-being, there's things that, okay, they're neutral. But then if it's something, if your day is filled with things that are taking you down a path of the adversity, not for your good, then what can you do to strengthen the boundaries? Jamie, do you have like a model on, boundary strengthening?
Out here, I do not, but right here, I just have problem solving formulas and an energy mapping guide. I'm sorry.
That's okay. But
That's something we have to develop through the process, because most people don't even, I know for me, I didn't even know who I was. I didn't even really know what I wanted to do. I had no clue my entire life until 35, when I started honing in on things. I had no idea that the world was in chaos. I had no idea that we were being harassed. I learned these things as I went.
I feel that, I think before we came into this life, it feels like to me that there was going to be a pivotal moment that led to awakening and to greater consciousness. And for me, I feel like that was in 2012. I was already headed toward it, years before that. But then when the targeting experience happened to me in 2012, it opened the floodgate to that self-discovery. I feel like that, like you said, with the timelines and such, I think there comes a time where that shift has to come. And then when we start to get hungry for more, and then we start to question, then we become also an observer also too through this journey. But the questioning and just wanting to know more and more and pushing the envelope, you got to get out of the comfort zone of, okay, this is what I was taught and what I learned from my parents, and this is what society says and deems as good, bad, evil, all of that. But then there becomes a question. You just start to questioning, and what better way to start questioning everything than to be attacked, like the targeted individual community gets attacked,
Mhm.
because everything just starts to crumble down. The
Well,
little
you're being
part,
attacked anyway, whether
yeah,
you know it or not. And anybody that awakens on the planet is an automatic attack, to suppress you, and you'll stay stuck in shadow.
yeah.
I was in shadow for 10 years,
Oh yeah,
because
I've
I
seen.
didn't have boundaries. It wasn't until 10 years later, the 4 steps that I originally started practicing, I showed up like Jesus. I became loving, I was kind, I was accepting, I didn't judge anything, I offered forgiveness, and I was used and abused. And one day I had a wake up call, and in popped in. I was going to help somebody for like the 4th time, and I was very upset. And I got upset with myself for getting upset. And I was like, "How dare you get upset? She's suffering." And then in popped in, "You're enabling her." And then it was like the light bulb went off. So then I had to start speaking up. And I had been surrounded by narcissists that, for a 10-year period, because as soon as if you don't have boundaries, you're going to attract the opposite of you. And, I had a lot of hard lessons that I had to learn. But again, that was my training. I learned psychology through the process, energy. So it was definitely a game changer for me. But so when I started off, so I practice non-dual awareness. I mean, I'm aware of polarity. I don't say label anything as good or bad, right or wrong. I just say where I study discrepancies and distortions. And when
I
I
like that. Yeah.
identify distortions, then I heal that within myself, and then I take the proper steps. So I really want to teach um, the importance of, you know, when we become aware when we've been triggered and we're communicating with someone and we're in a relationship, whether it be whatever, is the importance of taking a moment and stepping back and assessing the situation and not going in on the other person first. Because there's always a lesson, and that person is always teaching you something, and it never has anything to do with that circumstance that you're in that moment. It never does. I'm completely blown away by that. It's like we're just coming in contact with our mirrors. They're projecting to us what needs to be healed within us. But the polarity is the trap, because it's trying to blind us from seeing the root. And that's what we have to do, is root out all of these issues. So it's usually attached to, maybe a boundary. Maybe you've been consenting to a behavior just because of the patterns. We have to really go into these patterns, into our relationships, and study, why am I in this situation? How did I get myself here? Work with the low self-esteem, low self-worth, work through our guilt, fear, shame, anger, resentment, regret, jealousy. Those are the things that are blocking us from that deep, deep connection with the self. The good news is it's not a one and done. It's a process. You might, this is one thing I hear, oh, I already healed that. No, you didn't. I'm still healing. I'm healing every day. I don't ever think I'm humble. I don't think I know everything. I know how to process energy. That's it. I come up with my own truth that I need to abide by. I don't project that onto other people. I try to guide people, but not everybody wants to be part of this process.
Well, it's hard because the suffering and the attacks are just can be so debilitating and painful, and you're messing with they mess with the cognitive function. That was what was so frustrating and angry to me is my work. I have to be sharp. I have to see big picture all the way down to the blade of grass. That's what I do, and that's what I'm known for. That's what I've built myself, and that was my identity to myself. And then when something comes along and attacks that, then that was so, and then it was soul crushing to me, So then I had to go, okay, well, I'm not going to let this defeat me. What can I do? What can I nurture this temple with that is going to support and counter the physical attack? You know, what you put, what am I eating? What am I doing that is contributing to this neurological, blowout, distress? So I had to start doing things that were anti-inflammatory and just being very mindful of that, all the while still trying to heal and to still, carry on and do my day-to-day functions and to move forward. There's just so much. So do you want to kind of give an overview of Poli-Si and explain that?
So the science of Poli-Si is a holistic framework and program language created to empower individuals to take charge of their internal state, emotional well-being, and personal growth. We teach through the structure of collective coherence, the nature of consciousness, conscious energy, and unconscious energy in relation to time, space, duality, polarity, mind control, and corrupted quantum systems. My overall message to targets is that quarantine timelines exist here and immunity structures. We just have to be able to tap into that by understanding what are organic life systems and what are inorganic life systems. For example, organic systems operate through the parameters of love, unconditional love. There's 4 postures in unconditional love. There's soft love, tough love, omni love, and what's the 4th posture? Soft love, tough love, self-love. So recognizing the coexistence of these 2 systems is vital for understanding the complexities of what we consider reality. Understanding our role from a new perspective is not only necessary, but imperative for addressing societal issues such as electronic warfare, mental illness, disease, chronic pain, survival stress, addiction, codependency in relation to our biosystem. Understanding how consciousness functions in time through systems is necessary to break free from the illusion of duality, polarity, mind control, and inorganic life systems. So I'm led to, I just got a message. So since targets are basically in the water treading, exhausted, not today, but possibly next week if you want to do the...
Yeah, we'll do a part 2 next week.
So I'd like to introduce this energy mapping process because we have to learn to move into the attacks. We have to understand, okay, where am I resonating with this attack? Okay, what was I just thinking? How am I feeling right now? Most people can't even identify how they feel. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. We have to identify the emotions that are underneath the feeling. Then we have to identify the mental models and the structure that these feelings are coming from. And because we're working from the premise, a problem well-defined is a problem solved. You can't solve a problem from the highest timeline unless you understand the full scope. So for example, we have to break everything down like a map. We have to put all the puzzle pieces out on the table, look at them, study the pieces, look at the parts, figure out how they're connected, because everything's interconnected. Then we have to put the puzzle pieces together with a plan. And I do want to acknowledge that this process seems overwhelming, but it is not. It is 4 steps that we practice through every aspect of this. And there are layers. We have to go through our perceptions, our intentions, our motivations, and our behaviors. We have to identify, because they're getting us with our responses. That's how they're...
That's the key. That's the key to their
they're
success.
Controlling us with the responses. So we have to take that ability away from them. I don't want to get too deep into this, but we have to understand time. Time does not exist. It's a man-made construct. Okay? We have to build spatial recognition, spatial awareness, understanding what mindset am I in right now? What am I feeling? Well, I feel a little agitated. Well, why am I agitated? Well, the neighbor just did this, and that. You know what I mean? We have to really get to the bottom of why we feel the way we do and realize that everything is connected to a structure and a timeline. All timelines began in inner childhood. It's a blockchain of events that led you up to this time where you have all this trauma stored in the body. It needs to be dumped. We have to dump some of this program. The first thing we do is identify guilt, fear, and shame. Now, I've not talked to one person that hasn't said, I don't have any guilt. That's exactly what I said. But when I stopped and said, well, maybe you do. And then I said, all of a sudden the floodgates open and a whole lifetime of examples of where I felt guilty. We feel guilty if we can't give someone something that we just can't do. It's like the guilt is in every layer and shame is in every layer. We've got religious programs, and don't get me started on all that, but
one of my greatest, personal beasts that I have to wrangle with on a daily basis is perfectionism, and being able to think that I could do it all, and then not ask for help. Oh, I got this, and then here comes the resentful going, well, why can't XYZ help do this? Well, I didn't ask.
Yeah, you have to ask. You have to be ready for everything.
I got to check myself on a regular. I'm like, I'm doing this to myself. I'm creating this ball of emotion, this little, Tasmanian devil spinning around because of my own choice of, how I let these things build up, and then it gets to the point where it's
a game. It's a game of you against you. Targets are in a place where they have to just develop these processes in order to protect themselves. So we're battling complexity, uncertainty, and vulnerability. The mind, so the brain's number one job is to protect you.
Right.
So it's connected to polarity, duality, and programming. So you can't have two simultaneous beliefs programmed in the mind. So, for example, the first program belief I went through was you made your bed, now you have to lay in it. I had to pull that program out. It was blocked. It was a psychological block that kept me from seeing a solution. So I had to pull that out and recognize, wow. So as soon as I unblocked myself, then all of a sudden I could see solutions. But we're so entrained to live inside of the problems, to complain. That's how they're getting us, through the responses. We have to build impeccable self-awareness and be able to counter our responses and say, no, we're not doing this.
So how many, just, this is a good example. I know that if I lose my cool and my defenses, right, or you get overwhelmed and you get frustrated, and then you've opened that door and you're spinning out, and then the attack starts to get heavier and worse. How many people have actually had that happen? So that taught me, because I saw the pattern of it. I'm like, oh, when I respond and I react a certain way, and if it's in a negative space, then, oh, here, it's just like the vultures are descending upon it. Oh, she's down. Come on, let's go and, bomb her with more negativity and pain and stuff. So it's like incoming is moments that you just step off of that balance that you have and go into that path. It's just like, here comes the vultures.
Yeah. They definitely peck at your eyeballs when you're down, that's for sure.
And then I got to a point where I was seeing this pattern, and I was like, how sick is it that, you take a vulnerable moment of, maybe grief or loss or suffering, and, somebody who's overwhelmed, overworked, overstressed, and not enough rest, and they're just having a very human moment of letting it out, maybe not constructively, you're venting or whatever. And then here comes the attack, because it's really shameful how these programs work, but you have to recognize it for what that is. You slipped and lost your balance, and here comes the attack. So you just have to see it for the game it is. I mean, it is all about the mind control game.
So developing the new baseline formulas is imperative. So for example, I say, okay, they can invite me to an attack, but I don't have to show up. So I go into my processing, identify where in my body everything's located. I move the energy out, and then I respond. I don't respond right away. It was difficult for me in the beginning because I was a attack first, ask questions later kind of person. So I really had to retrain myself how to, take a moment, step back, go inward, figure out why I was even in that situation. What am I doing to contribute? But work with the victim. And I always gave myself an out. I said, you know what? You can go back later and attack them tomorrow if you still feel it's necessary. And I have never had to go back and attack anyone in 20 years. Now, I've had to go toe to toe with people, but once you set up strong boundaries, it just is what it is. You got a block there. You don't even go into that. You recognize it and you move away from it.
So what advice do you have, like when somebody is really being hit with like the directed energy, what can they do in that moment to lessen the impact?
So I know for me, when that occurs, I can't do much except think, because I'm literally like choked. I'm just sitting there, almost like you're sick. You have like the flu and you just can't get up. But I can control my mind. I say, this is temporary. This is happening for me to teach me. This is just adversity. I'm learning. I'm getting more powerful. My nervous system is increasing. I'm building my spine. I can do this. And I just think it through. I say, this is temporary. And I really just locate the energies within my body and start moving it out. But it took me years to get to that place. But I didn't have the processes. I developed them over time. So had I had them before, obviously it would have helped. I could have saved myself years, but it didn't work out that way. So
that's very good advice. To tell yourself that it's temporary, it will pass.
And you know what? That's your cue. Get up, start dancing, put on your favorite song. Put on affirmations. You have to do something to shift your frequency.
And it really does help. When you're under that kind of attack, instead of diving into the pain and the trauma and the experience of what they want you to do, which is to dive in and focus on it, you've got to create a counter. You've got to counter that attack with the positive, the music, the affirmations, and it dissipates. It really does.
So if you look at the mind, you've got your conscious mind, you've got your subconscious mind. And then between the conscious and subconscious is a governor. That's the program. So the mental models and beliefs that you've subscribed to your entire life are blocks. They're energetic blocks. It's psychological energetic blocks. So it needs to be removed, but you don't have that awareness in that moment. So you can actually use the attacks to say, okay, where am I blocked? And you can work with the processes, find out what it is you're supposed to do. So really the attack, I mean, I know it's hard to believe that they are a blessing. It's such a hard way to see things, but see, that's the program. The program will have us believing that things are good or bad, right or wrong. We have to move away from that mindset and really just focus on what's my circumstance right now? How am I going to get through this? And really you have to work through the mind maze. So again, the 4 processes that we have, and we have an unblocking technique, which is basically the same energy mapping technique, and moving the energy out because the energy's stuck. So it's developing. I think this is going to be a huge game changer for people. In fact, it's It's what I do. You know, I have a fear of speaking in public. Last night I started getting anxious and, you know, feeling constricted. And I said, please, God, help me get through this tomorrow. And then I heard, why don't you just work with complexity and uncertainty and vulnerability? Work through that, because that's what's trapped right now. So I just did the exercise and, you know, I worked through it. You know, sometimes you can get lucky and things will come out quickly. Sometimes you have to labor for it. You know, it could take a week to remove a block, you know, but it's a process. And we really have to develop our self-compassion, because we have to develop the mindset that I'm exactly where I am, where I'm supposed to be right now. Otherwise, I'd be somewhere else. And we have to really stop thinking in terms of, we want everything now. It's the journey. It's the
Yeah,
journey of
it's
self-discovery and
quick.
development.
Yeah, quick fix. And when it comes
No,
to healing, there's no quick fix. You have
no.
to really, really want to hunger for it, and you'll thank yourself later for taking that, you know, dipping your foot into the pond of it. Really, this is what we're here for. We're supposed to be learning, and we're supposed to be expanding, and we're supposed to be growing. And I think back prior to, you know, knowing that I was targeted. Obviously, mine was a result of whistleblowing, but um, you know, I looked back at that and I'm like, wow. I mean, I tell myself, and I know this is hard for some TIs to understand, but I'm blessed to have had this experience, because what the beauty of it is what I got to learn about myself in the process of it.
Yeah,
And
and
it,
that's what we're here for.
it really, it's a much more rich and rewarding life, and a greater connection with God and the universe, and knowing that even though you don't feel at times like someone may be around you and supporting you, but God and the universe support you. And it's this, you're co-creating with your higher self, and knowing that you can even tackle the most unsurmountable circumstances.
You absolutely can.
You
I've been
just have to
through,
break it down into
yeah.
steps. You know, you can't climb, you just can't tackle a mountain, but you can chip away at it. And I know that there are so many that just want suffering to end, and and we we all want that, right? But then in the process, this is actually kind of, if you see it as the momentum behind you, pushing you to outside of the envelope, to
Mhm.
go into territories that you've never discovered before. And in those territories, you learn so much about yourself. You start, once you start getting out of the, you know, you said the freeze, flight, what, fawn, hadn't heard the
Mhm.
fawn one before, but those
That's the people
responses.
pleaser. The
So,
fawn
okay,
comes in
well,
for the
that
trauma.
no wonder I didn't recognize it, because I am guilty of people pleasing, and
Yeah.
I've had to catch, and I had to recognize that about myself. Going, you know what? Because usually, if somebody needed something, well, let me just drop whatever I'm doing, and let me just focus and help someone. And I had to, and my scale became unbalanced because of that, because my energy reserves were depleted, because I'm not giving enough back to myself. It wasn't balanced. But that the recognition of that is where okay, now I've recognized it. Now I've taught myself to look for it when it occurs, and then I can reconcile that, you know, that the next time that it comes up, I can, oh, okay, here it is again. So it really is, it's just a process. But if you look at it through the lens of love, and it can be a beautiful process. It doesn't have to be the, you know, the dark scariness all the time. I know
Yeah.
that these attacks, they come, and but you can find a solution. You have to keep trying to find something, shielding, you know, meditating, music. You've got to keep finding something that works for you. Not what works for me may not work for someone else, right?
Yeah.
It's about what works for you, and but you have to love yourself so much and believe in yourself so much that you're going to find the solution that works for you. You cannot lose hope in
No.
yourself.
So the formula that we use that is throughout everything that we do is it's authenticity. So that's the master code for
Mm-hmm.
creation, love. When you're in authenticity, you're in love. So it's either love or fear. It can't be both. There is no love and fear, and there's no fear and love. Anything that's not love is the illusion. So our template is self-awareness, honesty, self-accountability, self-acceptance, empathy, gratitude, self-accountability. I might have said that already. And forgiveness. That's the formula for creating mind, brain, heart, brain, nervous system, free will coherence. When all of those aspects are working together, the first three, self-awareness, honesty, and self-accountability, just right there, you'll take yourself, you'll unload tons of pressure just by taking accountability. How can I take accountability for this attack? How can I bring more self-awareness into this attack? How can I bring more honesty into this attack? How can I bring more empathy? And when you start empathizing, extending compassion, self-acceptance, self-accountability, it's transformational. It really is. And it's really simple, basic things. But since we're mind controlled and put into this other system, we can't recognize it. You know, we think we're all of these. If you would have asked me 20 years ago, I would have said I'm all of those things, but I was none of them. I didn't even know what honesty looks like. I mean, we start lying when we're a child. You know, the first time you lie, you know, and you start doing things outside. So everything is a mirror. We come into this system. We have no words, no mind. You know, we have nothing. We're a blank slate. We sit there in our playpen in our crib, and we look around at our caregivers, and we're picking up, our mirror neurons are firing. We're seeing how they're conducting themselves, how they act, how they react, how they respond to things, normal things. I know for me, I was raised with an OCD mom who was psychotic about cleaning. I mean, she had this nervous energy blueprint, and I was a nervous child. And just the effects of a lifetime of that, you know, I was living in the future my whole life. I was always in a hurry to go everywhere. You know, I could be driving down the road. If I was 5 minutes late, I mean, it's like all of a sudden it's Armageddon 911, you know? And that's what we have to do. We have to say, well, wait a minute. Where's my mind right now? Oh, I'm
Right.
nervous. Well, why are you nervous? Well, because I'm thinking about something 5 hours from now, and I'm not focusing on what I'm doing right now. Reality is we have control over very few things. What we think, how we feel, how we act, react, and respond. That's it. We can choose our beliefs, but that's it. We can't control other people. We can't control how they respond to us. We can't control, you know, that we're being, I mean, we are going to be stepping into our power and controlling it that way, but it is what it is. You know, we're here. This is the card we're dealt. We got to play the hand that we have.
Right.
You know?
To me, it's been coming to me that, okay, so with this technology, this, mind control technology, they've simply made a carbon copy of ourselves, and they're using that copy of ourselves to battle the now version of ourselves with this
Yeah.
technology. So
Well,
essentially, we're kind of in a battle with our own self.
yeah. It's a
Because
game of you against you.
they've robbed
No.
it and is using the shadows aspects of it to sit there and counter at us, and attack us with our own stuff. So I got downloaded. This was right in the very beginning that God just revealed to me that if you get to the root of what hurts you, it has no more power or control over you. And that was
Absolutely.
profound. And here I am still, going into 13 years, and I'm still learning what that means every single day. Because, oh man, it really,
Well,
it's
so
just,
these systems, these occult structures are anchored into mental illness and disease structures. So the mind is actually schizophrenic. There is a multiple versions of you. They're shadow aspects, they're programmed, they're interdimensional and extra dimensional, connected to, parasitical programming. So it's like a virus of the mind. We have to
Yeah.
go into the
Yeah.
mind and say,
That's, yes.
who am I right now? So there's a jealous you, an angry you, a
Mm-hmm.
shameful you, a
Mm-hmm.
resentful.
Mm-hmm.
Then we look at mental illness. I had no idea that I was OCD. So my stuff started at a very young age with OCD, but I wasn't even aware of that until about maybe 2 years ago, of how my mind was just constantly badgering me and saying things, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. Why didn't you do this earlier? You have, just nonstop.
Oh, I can relate with that one. Yes,
So
for sure.
we have to address the mental illness. So we're all bipolar, we're all schizophrenic, we all have OCD. Does that mean we're like that all the time? No, we have moments of that. That's spatial recognition. Understanding, where's my mind? I'm caught in the consciousness trap. I'm recycling the same tape. There's a tape playing in the back of your head. It's literally like a CD, and we're repeating things over and over.
It's those patterns, we're going around the mountain again, we're just going around in circles, and I'll catch myself. I'm like, oh, here we go again. What do I need to resolve? What is this trying to teach me? What do I need to resolve so this doesn't play again? Because here it comes again. I thought I resolved it. Here it comes again. And,
so I'm so sorry.
No, go ahead.
So one thing that targets can do is to ask questions like, how can I understand this attack more clearly? What am I not seeing? How can I see it differently? What is it that I could change, that I would change if I just knew what it was? So you start working with the subconscious mind and start having a conversation with it, because the mind wants to build this architecture, believe it or not. It wants to get out of this structure and into the higher structure to be able to maneuver through this stuff. And the brain will teach you. It literally will teach you how to move through all of this stuff, but it's asking different questions. You can't stop.
Can you go through those questions again? Because that's really important. It's like when you're in the attack, you need to stop and pause and start asking the questions.
Yeah.
And
so
for those, there's a disclaimer with those with the V2K. Don't listen to what the V2K responds with. Okay, you're talking to yourself. They're going to feed you garbage. Okay, so. Yeah.
Well, so that's the inner dialogue, though. It's picking up how you really feel about yourself deep down inside. And you just don't see that right now, so it's.
Yeah, you know what, to come to think about it, how they respond and latch in to certain things, and it goes into like a summary later on. So I noticed that if I do something that is not a pattern of me, right? So I have to be very conscious of my patterns, because what these mind control programs thrive on is your patterns. So when you choose spontaneity over your pattern and you shake up your routine, then it kind of quietens it, and then it has to collect that information, use it as its last tangible recording of you, and then start going from there. It takes it a while for those with the V2K, and they know what I'm talking about. But it'll take that V2K a while to even respond, because it was like it can't compute it. Hey, this hasn't happened before.
Well, you want to spoof it. You want to start sending out different signals. So, I mean, you're going to build a very interesting mind through this process. I don't want to get too far into the future, but like everything that's happening now has always been happening. We're just understanding what's been happening. We're coming into that awareness of what has already been. And the system that they have in place is really how the subconscious mind works. So anyway, you're going to build a very interesting mind. So for example, time travel exists, but not in the way that people understand. Bilocating exists, not how people understand. you'll pull in all of these higher aspects of you. And as you start healing the shadows, you basically transform the shadows and then you integrate them in with the higher aspects. So you have all these different pieces of you. So you're going to go back and pick up those pieces, reconcile those pieces, and you're basically building armor. You're building an armor, a framework.
Yeah, because
So,
each trauma is an element of soul loss. So
yeah.
and shamanism focuses on that. You're collecting those missing parts of the soul for integration, and that all of that stems back from just that fragmented soul, and that's where trauma and wounding and all of that. It takes those pieces away from you. And so you have to call them back and reclaim them
Yeah.
and integrate them.
Well, just a little foresight into the future. Eventually when you start building, you work with the imagination, the attention span, you start building some processes. So for example, I'll drive down the road and I'll bilocate. Next thing you know, I'm on a horse driving next to the car. And then I'm in a boat in the ditch driving. And then I could be in a ship flying upside down backwards. You're going to confuse them. But the higher stuff, and I'm like this. What is going on? But it's just interesting. I know that sounds a little goofy, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's almost like you like you said, you gotta throw something else out there and be like, huh? Why are they thinking about this, and why are they doing this?
I just carry on a dialogue, Sometimes I'm like, I don't have time for this. I'm doing something else. Or I'll say, and I school them, I start saying, no, that's not what we're doing. We're doing this. I love myself. So one thing I do repeat, which is very good, and I'm safe, I'm loved, I'm supported in my authenticity. I am safe, I'm loved, I'm supported in my authenticity.
I like that. I'm safe, I'm supported. You said I'm safe, I'm loved,
I am safe,
supported.
I'm loved, I'm supported in my authenticity. Because you are always protected in your authenticity. When you're under attack, you have to move into the attack. You can't resist it. You have to move into it. And I started, I healed myself of lupus and Sjogren's disease, and I was in really bad pain for a period of time. And I remember one night, I couldn't relax. I would go out and I would walk like 5-10 miles a day, just because the only time I could get relief was when I was moving. So when I was laying there, I was in excruciating pain in my hips. And finally, pardon my French, I said, you know what? Fuck it. Bring it on. Bring all the pain in the world. And then all of a sudden, the pain went away. And I was like, this is really interesting. And then when I originally started my journey, and trust me, I was borderline narcissistic. I had a lot of issues. But once I started taking accountability for those issues, coming clean and telling the truth, I felt like $1,000,000. I felt like I had shed like 10 pounds. When you're in truth, it doesn't matter how horrific the truth is. If you can look it in the eyes and stand face to face. I used to, when I was going through things and I was under a lot of pressure, I would get down on my knees and pray. I don't get on my knees anymore. I don't do that. And I don't know why, but I was told not to do that. You are not counting down to anyone. You are in charge of yourself. Own it. You can't rely on anybody else other than your higher self, God, Jesus. But the work has to come from you. That warrior. We have to build that armor.
That's what, you've got to come into connection with the warrior within, the hero within, and navigate that journey. And you've got,
there's a hero in there. This is the hero's journey, by the way. It's the hero's journey.
Yes.
We're here. This system is a school. You can go through the system. You can keep coming back if you want. That's fine. But you can also choose to expand out and move on.
Do you have some steps or for forgiveness? Because
So,
that one's such a big deal.
so this map here is for all of it. So forgiveness is something that you can come to once you have self-awareness, honesty, and self-accountability. You have to be able to put the pieces out, but you have to be willing first. You have to say, wait a minute, I don't feel like I'm ready to forgive. I feel like I want to go shoot some people up right now, but I'm going to take a step back and I'm going to look at this and I'm going to ask the questions. What am I not seeing? How can I see this better? What is it that I don't understand? What can I change now? And the self-accountability part is where the mind will open up and start showing you things. When you take accountability, it's transformational. And that's where we lose a lot of people. They want to blame and stay stuck in blame. You cannot solve a problem by living inside of the problem. And you have to adopt the mindset, hey, look, if I have this problem, then I am part of creating it. I may not be the perpetrator, but if I'm in this situation, then I'm consenting to it. So what do I need to do to stop this? So that's the boundaries. But everything happens in steps because, I mean, let's face it, there's a lot. I know for me, I was in a 13-year relationship that was just a complete nightmare, but he was my training. So it's steps, but the self-accountability is crucial, and the honesty. If you can't be honest and take accountability, then you're just going to remain attacked because, again, it's two different systems. Organic life systems works through honesty and transparency. It doesn't mean you have to go to everybody and say, I think this about you. No, you have to admit the truth to yourself. For me, I was like, you know what? Your behaviors are indicative of a piece of shit. You need to step up and do better. Like I started having empathy for others and saying, this person doesn't deserve this. They don't deserve to be treated that way. And as soon as I started doing that, a whole new world emerged.
Yes, and for the targeted community, we don't deserve this, but we're going through it, and we have to, especially since in this week and what's all has been revealed, we know that the biocyber interface of things has come to the door for this whole world, and we, as TIs, we need to understand that the glass is half full because we have been exposed to this, some for years, like myself, but the world is coming upon this too. We got the preview. Okay, and now is really the prime time to just, engulf yourself in the journey of healing yourself and liberating yourself from the constraints of this mind control programming, especially because it's going to be this big wave that's going to be happening as more and more people are coming into being attacked in this way. And, we have the power to pay it forward and to help provide tools and so that we can raise consciousness globally together, and knowing that we can counter these mind control programs if we take some action steps and do the work.
Well, their systems are crumbling and it's as good as done. We're just in the process of doing it, showing up and actually doing the work. And we are going to do this. It's already done. There's no doubt in my mind, but right now we have to learn to live in two spaces. We have to realize that we're in hell.
Yes.
And we have to create that peace within and live inside of hell. Because really what we're doing is the healing process is we're opening up portals and to access stargates so we can exit out of this system and not come back.
Yeah, I don't think anybody wants to repeat this. So
No.
Let this be the one and done. Okay, don't want to repeat this again. So I'm like, what? It really is about the self-questioning. I used to ask myself all the time, okay, what can I do? What can I do, God, that to to navigate. Please use me as a conduit. Just come through me, speak through me. You know, what can I do? How can I change? What am I not seeing? What am I not hearing? What could I do better? What am I holding on to that I don't need to hold on to anymore? And it will reveal itself to you. Either you might get like picture flashes in your mind or memories. It's telling you, you ask the question, now it's telling you you're starting to get these memories of, you know, something in the past, and it's showing you, okay, there's something right there that you need to heal. What is it? You know, just keep being the investigator. And asking the questions, and you'll see the results and how it responds. So do you think on next week's episode we can, you know, get the diagram up on the screen and go through that?
I'll work on the map and get it set up. I would recommend that we get it out and everybody get out a piece of paper and draw it up exactly how I have it as a blank template, and I'll teach them how to fill it in. But what it is,
based on themselves, right?
Yeah. So
that's awesome.
It's an energy reversing system. So we're going to flip the polarity. We're going to take the polarity out of the situation, heal it, and access more information. I mean, we're scientists. We're blueprinters, programmers, scientists, and architects. And we're here to step into our full power. We're the God particle. You know, we have to access that. So non-dual awareness is God source awareness. And
absolutely. You have to be open to receive. This is another thing. The universe is going to start showing you signs of support. You know, everybody's got a guardian, angel, and a guide. They're there. Their whole job is to be with you and to help you. But you need to connect with them and be open to them. And you will start seeing signs. I saw in the chat, someone keeps seeing the numbers 444 and 222. That when you start seeing these repetitions, that is the universe telling you something. The 2s are about balance, and the 4s are about the angels and the archangels, and the 1111s, and those are portals. That's a portal right there opening up to you to take action. You know, when I see those 1s, then I know that I need to be focusing on visualizing what I desire right in that very moment. Right? I'll catch myself as what's going on right now. Shift that energy over to you're visualizing the success. And it's almost like I also have been using a technique too, that I visualize my future self. Already conquered it, already got it, already have it. And I'm like, you know, I'm pulling that in, you know, no matter what I'm going through in that moment, I know that success is already out there. But what's keeping me from obtaining that is distraction, giving into the mind control, you know, procrastination. I think that is really common, you know, and maybe you could give some tips on procrastination. What is the root of procrastination? Is it fear? Is it unwillingness to, you know, step forward, or is it just the mind control just coming in and trying to sabotage it?
Well, it's a little bit of everything, but ultimately for me, it's showing me the areas of my life that I really am not happy about. So I'll notice that if I'm takes me forever to fold the clothes. You know, I can wash them and dry them, but for some reason can't fold and put them away. So I catch myself. I don't know. It's complex. It's not just one thing, but they are showing us areas that we're just not, you know, honestly, it's a neural pathway created in the mind. You just have to recognize it and say, I don't want to do this anymore.
Right. Yes.
So I do want to say one thing about this framework, the Poli-Si framework. You don't have to learn, you know, all of these subjects in entirety. What happens is when you open up your mind to these processes, you start learning differently. You get a a different type of perception. So for example, I could read a medical paper, not know anything about it. But when I'm reading it, I always know I'm reading something because there's something that I'm supposed to see. So when I take, if I have an interest, I know that's because I'm supposed to read it. So if I'm reading it, I'm like, I don't know anything. I don't know what this is saying. Then all of a sudden I'll get to a spot like Sabrina Wallace. When I first heard her talk, I had no idea what she was talking about, but I knew she was speaking the truth. So I still piqued my interest. And then as she was talking, my mind started building models and giving me pictures the way that I'm used to communicating so I could understand. So we're going to start, once you start opening up to some illogical ways of processing, which is going to feel odd to the ego because you're taking it out of its comfort zone. But once you start doing that, you start maximizing your ability to process and discern information. It's not like it used to be. You'll learn totally different. Like, did you ever not pay attention in school and then take a test and you pass the test and you're like, I don't know how I passed it, because the subconscious mind is downloading everything. Like this video, if someone's watching it, you just got to download. The conscious mind can't process everything that we talked about, but it's penetrating in layers in the subconscious. And whatever you're supposed to see, you will
hear
see
at that moment. Yes.
So you might only hear one or two things, but you have a nugget and you can go off and move into that. And then everything, what we're doing is breaking down the parts to make sense of the whole.
Right.
And that's why I'm not.
That's what's good about this, this podcast. So you can play it back and you may get something else from it from the second play. But it's almost like like you said, your subconscious is on that. It's out. The governor is out there, right, looking for that piece of that nugget of information that it can resonate with and needs right now. So maybe you can't digest the whole, but you got what you need right there in that moment, and then and it's going to expand out from there.
So one critical point about when you're trying to probe to see where you're blocked, a good method would be, I now give myself permission, push past all blocks and barriers, keeping me from expanding into my highest awareness. Because we have to work with the governor, because the governor knows, is like, well, that's connected to the sexual trauma that you had when you were 8. And I don't know if that's a good idea to go there yet. We as humans want the bottom line answer right now, but we might have to go through 3 or 4 things and connect the dots and then move into that. So we just are constantly unblocking, releasing, and then getting to the program level.
And it really is, you're navigating the program, your hero journey, and your liberation and your healing. Once you recognize, I think the biggest thing, it was like a shift. I think there's these time shifts that happen once you get to a certain space where you've loosened up and you've freed and disconnected from some outdated beliefs or outdated, programming. You've learned what you needed to learn from it. And then you come into these time shifts where, like, it's just like in that instance, you think differently going forward. I've had those come up for me as well. Once you start doing this kind of inner work, then you will notice these shifts, and you're like, the things that you used to think about, you're not thinking about no more, because you've already gotten past that. And that's what the beauty of this journey is. And even though we are dealt with the cards that we are with the directed energy attacks and B2K and such, but by doing the inner work, you will see that transform as well. And you'll get to a place where it is not impacting in you as it was before. Like Jamie said, it'll be great to dig into the model that you have, and so that everybody can personalize the model based off of themselves, and it'll be a great discussion. This has been a really great discussion.
I'm really looking forward to this. And I know the 2 girls that I work with, they would like to help.
Yes.
teach some maybe foundations classes on how to connect with the self-awareness, come into the body, connect to the inner critic and dialogue, connect to what are my patterns, how do we do this, the basics. Really, you need a foundation, you know, you need a mindset shift, and people need to get out of these, well, I don't like using those words, have to, but it's really important that we challenge our current beliefs system. It doesn't mean that we have to abandon them, but it
Right.
means that we have to put them up against a contrast and see where the discrepancies are, because the reality is all systems in this system are connected to occult structures. That means every religion, everything. We are creating a new system simultaneously. You know, we need new education systems. We need a whole new system, but it has to be exposed, and the targets have an opportunity to break free from this. I think that as horrible as it is, it's really an opportunity if you can shift that mindset and say, you know what, I'm not a victim anymore. I know this is not going to be easy, but I'm up for the challenge. And it's really building the nervous system capacity. That's what it is, to be able to withstand the attack. So I know for me, so there's many perspectives. We've got the galactic perspective, the cosmic. I mean, there's so many. So from the highest perspective, we can work through this. You know, we're not alone. We are not alone. But we do have to know, you know, what channels am I opening up, and making sure that these channels aren't leading us back into the occult structures. So, for example, I know this is probably going to upset people, but some of the archangels are part of that structure. So we're yielding our power away to something else. That power is within us. Now, mentally, we might think that we need help. I mean, I would say Jesus is a safe place, God, obviously. But I don't mess with the archangels.
Yeah. And everybody, again, it's about, you need to challenge your beliefs. Like you said, you have to challenge them, because it could be a block keeping you from expanding your own consciousness. And by just always questioning everything, be the skeptic, and going, okay, well, this is what I've always believed, but why have I always believed this? Just kind of continue to branch out. Sometimes beliefs will keep us trapped in expanding beyond the horizon of something that is really, wonderful and beautiful right on the other side of it. So I just try to, I think the best thing that I could say is to always keep an open mind and an open heart to receive new information. That
Yes.
you don't know, you never stop learning, you never stop wanting to gain knowledge and to expand your awareness of things. And then I think the universe and God does respond to you by showing you and putting those things that you need in front of you when
Mm-hmm.
you are open to receive them. But you have to be open and not closed off. And these
Yeah.
attacks can keep people closed off. So you have to find a way that you can remain open in your heart to receive what God and the universe is wanting to provide you. And even under these attacks, you can't.
Yeah.
And by meditation and prayer, and you know find putting in things in your day that bring you comfort or minimize your attack, whether it be music, walking, being out in nature, whatever you can do to get out of the bubble. Because it's easy to get sucked into the bubble where there's just so much information being flooded about all of this technology and the bio and all of that. And I'm guilty of this. I will get sucked into reading all of this. And then hours have gone by and the things that I needed to do didn't get done because I'm in the bubble of just grabbing on to everything that I can to digest it. But you also have to create some balance with it too, because it can consume you because there's so much out there. And that's where, this week I'm like, okay, I need to pull back a little bit on the researching and all of that, because then all this other part of my existence, didn't get any acknowledgement, this week, because I was in my bubble with it. So if that makes sense, it's so easy to get sucked in to it. And then you have to discern, okay, is this just a tactic, or some things that are being said? And is it an illusion? Is this the truth? And you have to kind of tap into your discernment to, okay, do I resonate that as being truth? Or does this seem like it's just a smoke screen, right?
Yeah.
So you have to always have to be subject, questioning what you're consuming.
So my baseline for that is believe nothing, consider everything.
Yeah.
And consider everything as data and information just so you can process it out. And when you develop that mindset, we just get stuck on, I don't know, one thing can throw us off, that's for sure. So there's so much misinformation and disinformation out there. It's really hard. And when you're trapped in your emotion of it all, it's impossible to discern. It really is. You're going to pull whatever information in and bring it into your framework of understanding. You have to build a new framework, relearning how to think, sense, probe, process, discern, store, transmit, and transmute.
I like to sit with the data that I've consumed for the day, and then just kind of just let it sit, because you just can't. That's when, once you let it sit for a while, then you will know it, as long as you're, like what you said, not in an emotional event, but you're calm, you're centered, and then you will begin to understand what you resonate with as being true.
Yes.
After you've let it sit for a while, because you could go on many different spins. There's just so many directions that all of this is going to. And I like that, just you take in the information and just just sit with it and see what resonates.
One thing I ask is, so the subconscious mind cannot not answer a question if you ask. Does that mean you're going to get the answer, boom, right away as soon as you ask it? Sometimes you might. Sometimes you might have to wait a day or two, sometimes a week. But I always say, is this something that I need to process out right now, or can I back burner this?
Oh, that's good. I like that. Yeah.
And, well, what'll happen is, if it's something that I'm supposed to see, it'll keep coming back, Mm-hmm. And if it's not something, my mind will just forget all about it. And sometimes I hear back burner.
Yeah. I totally resonate with that, because there articles like I'll flag and then I'll just forget about it. But then there's the ones that you can't stop thinking about, and the ones I was like, okay, I need to go revisit that, or I'm seeing a pattern, and I keep, every time I pull up back, I'm seeing that same topic, that same thing. Yeah, you're recognizing the patterns, because you put the governor, the subconscious, on. And are you still there?
I'm here.
Okay. My whole screen just flipped to something else.
Oh, shoot.
And my little shielding device is going nuts. So
we're all basically in like a self-formed paradox, and that prohibits us from discerning what is real and what is true because of polarity. Because we're always processing and discerning through the framework of our belief systems. And if we don't know what those belief systems are, we're only ever going to see, it's just like the algorithms in your news feed. You're going to see things that you agree with. So you're constantly, I knew that was right. No, that's just all you're seeing because that's what you believe.
Right. Well, yes, that's a good perspective. Yes, because the things that you believe, then yeah, you attract more of that, right?
Yep. You
Oh
want more
man,
pain, we can give it to you.
I could just keep going on and on, but we're almost up to about 2 hours now, and
Okay.
we've got over 200, about 220 viewers right now. So if you're just now tuning in, this podcast with Jamie, we've had a great discussion. It gives you much to think about. Again, if you scroll up to the very top of the chat, there is a link, and I will also put it on my X channel, The Chosen Heroes, for the download of the Targeted Individual Counter-Terrorism measure. I got that name wrong. I'm just blanking out. I have it right in front of me, too. It is the Targeted Individual Counter-Terrorism Action Plan, and it introduces Poli-Si framework within the guide. So this has been such a great discussion. It was more of an introductory about this plan. So next week, Jamie will be joining the Chosen Heroes, and we're going to go over a diagram that she has come up with, and we can work. And it's going to be individualized. So we will, everyone will draw it out, and then they will fill in their information as we go through it. And we're just going to continue to get into diving into this action plan, and don't be overwhelmed if you read the manual, the guide, knowing that okay, this is the plan, but then we're going to break it down into steps so that it's digestible and actionable, that the tools that we need to start our plan for ourselves and our inner healing and our journey to counter these attacks and the mind control programs and the trauma that is used within these programs to keep us locked down. But Jamie, any final words you want to say to our audience here?
I'm very excited to take this journey with everyone. I look forward to us creating a better system, moving away from the control structure and creating a new earth.
Yes, absolutely. Amen. Thank you again, Jamie. This has been wonderful.
Thank you.
And God bless and cover and protect, and know that you have the hero within, and we will see you next week. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.